this is double Fernanda at once. That's amazing. We are together here at Dublin South FM. Everybody together. Welcome, everybody. And today we have this bank holiday and we have such a nice time here, I guess. And I am positive that you will enjoy because we have a special guest as usual. John Connors is his name. Welcome, John Connors.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Like you have a beautiful voice for radio. Do you know that?
I've heard that before, yeah. That's cigarettes and whiskey.
That's the perfect match to make your voice amazing.
Yeah.
I quit smoking actually because I had a show in Brazil,
Yeah.
like long time ago when I started doing radio, and I used to record in the morning.
Really?
And when I went to the station, like the radio station, my voice was like da, 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 da. And I felt
Yeah.
like, of course, I was a drinker, I was a smoker,
Yeah.
I was a joker, but then I said, okay, I have to quit this. And
Mm.
we also have somebody else there, the boss, Alison O'Dwyer. Hello, Alison. You are always the boss. You have to take this. You know what? Because otherwise you wouldn't like. Okay, I have to be there because I'm the boss. You know.
Dwyer is a great Irish name. Michael Dwyer. You know Michael Dwyer? Michael Dwyer was a famous Irish Republican who was almost like a sort of Rambo Republican who wandered around the hills of Wicklow, and he assassinated hundreds of British Army in the 1800s. There's actually a statue of him in Wicklow town. He was, yeah, a great film that we make actually. So there you go. You come from good stock.
Good breed.
I think so. He did. Yeah, yeah. I think he would have been held in the Wicklow prison and brought across. Yeah. Mm.
Me too. I
Yeah.
love history lesson as it's always so good learning more. By the way, because we have history and all together, I will start, John, telling you, advising you that in case I say something that you don't feel that was a proper word or a proper question or whatever, please don't take me in the wrong way, please.
I think we'll be okay.
Yes, because even though you were long living in a country, or because I was not born. Even though I feel Irish, I really feel Irish. I also have my red hair to tell the people that I am Irish now. There is always things that you cannot understand or still.
But I think that's a good thing.
Mm.
I think that not having a preconception and asking something that may potentially be offensive, from my perspective, I think that's a good thing because you're asking it from more of an innocent perspective because you don't know. I think that's a good thing. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is kind of you. And we have questions actually. I want to remind people if you are there because today's bank holiday, you are free, you're not driving, you are not busy, just come on, send us a message. The WhatsApp there, it's +353 1296 0939. You know how to reach me if you have my WhatsApp number. Some people haven't. Yes, you can text me, or also you can use the Instagram page. Okay, so starting from the very beginning, when someone asks you where are you from, the first question, of course, it's different. Is it any difference? Is there any difference about where you are from and where you were born?
Yeah, because I was born in London, but I'm not English. I mean, look at me, hear me. I don't sound like an Englishman. I don't have any English ancestry. I'm Irish on both sides, Irish traveller all the way. So like my four grandparents would all have very typical Irish traveller names: Connors, Ward, McCarthy, Donoghue. And I was actually born in England because my father and mother were engaged for a few years in their teens, and my father was a schizophrenic, and one night he hijacked a taxi and crashed into a wall, and then was arrested, but then brought to hospital and was put on an armed guard, due to go to court and get in prison for what he had done. And
Was he a taxi driver?
no, he robbed the taxi.
Okay.
And so my mother went to visit him in a hospital, and she escaped him out the window, and he escaped to England, and that's why I was born in England.
Okay.
And then I was there from a I think just before my first birthday, I came back and have been living in Ireland, specifically in the north side of Dublin, Coolock, for my whole life, really.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not feel Irish more than anything. I don't feel any affinity with Britain or England or no. That's not my identity. It's just a place of birth.
Yeah, I feel the same when people ask me, where are you from? I just played that joke that I told you before. Alison was just laughing because she knows. I tell I'm from Ranelagh.
Yeah.
And people goes, really? Ranelagh, okay, but where are you from? And I say, I was born in Brazil, which is kind of small different. And do you listen to the radio? Are you a radio listener?
Yeah, all my life I would have listened to the radio. I love the radio, actually. I actually love doing narration stuff. I love doing voiceover stuff. It's a different feel. The radio has a different feel to it. Yeah, I really, really like the radio. I'd actually probably listen to the radio, especially when I'm driving, more than I would watch television, really,
Mm-hmm. More than like.
Yeah, probably would, yeah. Because I wouldn't watch television a lot anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about the radio I really like, yeah.
I think the radio can make your imagination grow,
absolutely.
Because if you go back in time, there was, that radio novel.
Yeah.
Long time ago,
Yeah.
of course, yes, but this was so good for your imagination.
Yeah.
It's so much better than
Well, Orson Welles, famously, the director and writer, producer, actor of Citizen Kane, he did a radio show of War of the Worlds about the alien invasion, and he did it so good, famously, right back in the 1930s, that half of the country thought there was an alien invasion because their imagination was allowed to grow in such a way because of the radio, and he had this great voice. So half the country thought there was an alien invasion going on, so radio has a great history. And I'd listen to radio and I'd listen to podcasts a lot. That's what I love, a podcast,
Yeah, I saw a few interviews, interviews, yes, okay, you know what I mean. And I heard you saying that one of them, you were saying this is a good platform. We are recording on YouTube as well.
Live is great. I love live.
Okay.
Because, there's no way to fuck it up afterwards, or there's no way to manipulate it, We're going live here. So I love live. I usually want live. Whenever I'm doing press tours, I go, is it live?
Okay.
Because, then I feel safer, ironically.
Yeah.
Although the platform probably feels less safe because I might say something crazy, which I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I was here by myself, and I was just trying to go live, and I was using bad words in Brazilian Portuguese.
Okay.
And some people just heard, and
They get offended.
they just texted my son saying, "Look, your mother is cursing on radio."
We're not allowed to curse, are we?
No.
I just cursed there, didn't I?
It's okay. Nobody.
Okay.
Yes,
We're
we
allowed
can
one,
just beep that. Yes.
We're allowed one. I used my one curse.
Thank you very much. If Peter are listening, he will be happy. Hi, Peter. Where are you? I hope you are enjoying. Peter Rice is the manager, the guy that's let me do.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah, he will be happy. And now we are here twice per week. This is amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Pindorama started this is year 3 of Pindorama. Alison is just, wow, isn't that true, Alison? Yeah. And are you aware that we have Friday as well at 1 p.m.? Yeah, so we are twice per week. So if you cannot go on live today, you can come back on Friday at 1 p.m. And are you proud of your? I'm trying to find the word in English, of your heritage, of your origins. Are you proud of being a traveler?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, to be a traveler means many things, but really, if you were to simplify it, and a lot of people don't realize this, settled people or any people outside of our community, really what being a traveler is holding on to a lot of the old traditions of Ireland, of the old Gaelic traditions that the British tried to eliminate. If you look at the reconquest of Ireland 400 years ago, the sole purpose of that was to settle the native Irish, because most Irish actually travelled. And to de-Gaelicize them, to get rid of the Gaelic culture, which was the culture in which we all shared, and it was a community culture. So if you look at the way travellers live now and the way I live now, in this sort of in a campsite with all your family, your aunts, uncles, second, third cousins. You know, I grew up in a camp with 52 first cousins. That is just an old remnants of old Gaelic Ireland, and most settled people wouldn't know that we've managed to hold on to that. So definitely proud of that and where it came from. And I would come from a particular line of travellers that were activists. So my grandmother, Chrissy Donoghue Ward, is an activist for like 50, 60 years. And her sister was a famous activist, Nan Joyce, both in Donoghue maiden names. And they kind of lit up the world of activism for travellers for a long, long time and brought forward travellers' rights more than most activists. So I'm particularly proud of them. And my grandfather as well, Paddy Ward, was similar. He was kind of always by her side helping as well, but he wasn't as feisty as her, you know. And she's a great speaker and storyteller. And like, you know, I come from a line of storytellers. Again, that's the old Irish tradition, that's telling stories. That's kind of Shanachie, you know. So very proud of that, where I come from, and the people that came before me. I think, you know, I think we're living better lives in some ways, and it's because of them, you know.
Yeah, that's one question I have, because I feel like indigenous people in Brazil were hugely affected about invasion of Portugal, and they killed like 5 million, 6 million people, indigenous people, by the time they got there. And I don't think okay, I might be wrong here, but I don't think that nowadays they are living better lives than they were before, like, because the land belongs to them. And do you feel like today your community and your traditions are more important, or more open, or more accessible for your how can I say this, your children, your, you know?
I think that it's very, you know, it's not kind of one answer or the other, or black and white. It's kind of really traveller history, and, you know, the effects of the things that have happened with the state are very complicated. Again, a lot of people don't know our history, particularly our history with the state and the things that they have done to our community and how it still affects us today. So, for instance, if you look back at the formation of the Irish Free State in 1923, and we didn't actually get republic status till 49, and the 6 counties are still occupied by the British, but that's a whole other story. And I'm an Irish Republican. I believe in a united Ireland, the reunification of Ireland, and all my family do. But from the outset, the government wanted to settle travellers because we were seen as the ugly image of the tinker. They called us tinkers for tinsmithing, the craft of tinsmithing. The ugly image of the tinker in the countryside that would deter foreign investment from America. So they wanted to get all this investment in America and rebuild Ireland and make it a modern country. And key to that was getting rid of us. So they brought in many different policies and acts for decades after decades until 1963. And in 1963, Charlie Haughey, who later became the Taoiseach of Ireland, the Prime Minister.
Was he Irish or?
He was Irish.
Okay.
He set up a committee. It's called the 1963 Commission on Itinerancy, because they called us itinerants. And his objective was to solve the itinerant problem. He was looking for the final solution to the itinerant problem. It's the same quote Adolf Hitler used against the Jews, the final solution to the Jewish problem. He did that and replaced Jew with itinerant, us travellers. And in that commission, no travellers were consulted, and it was how to figure out the problem that existed. So we had ministers, councillors, TDs making suggestions like sterilise traveller women so that they can't have kids.
In the 60s.
Yeah, castrate the men, or take their kids away from them, or put them out in Spike Island so they will breed out as a people. So that's the sort of culture that a lot of this stuff came from, the political culture and how we were seen. And in the decades afterwards, the propaganda against us was huge. Now what happens is, wherever there's an action, there's a reaction, you know. They were advised by the British Council and the Dutch Council to not make certain mistakes in terms of dealing with our nomadism, but they still ignore them, such as using boulders to block up all our campsites and make us settle. And then in 1963, in around that time, then when plastic really started to come into Ireland, plastic ended the tinsmith trade overnight. And for the first time, the government offered the social welfare, the dole, to travellers, but they'd have to settle for 18 months in order to get the full dole. So it was like a bribery to settle travellers. So you had decades long of that stuff, and you know back then, you wouldn't have heard of a traveller suicide. That wasn't the thing. But they bribed us and they brought in policies that were horrendous, decade after decade. And now today, travellers have the highest suicide rate in the world per capita of any people. 11% of travellers die by suicide, and I think it's way higher because a lot of them go unreported because of the guilt and shame, you know, and the religious kind of inclinations of everything. So in some ways it's better, in some ways it's a lot worse. Like we have literally a mental health epidemic, you know, where you have chain reaction suicides of multiple people dying in a family. You know, like in 2011 there was a site in the south side of Dublin where like 39 family members killed themselves in 11 months in one site. So you have that sort of thing happening, and it's happening for multiple reasons. So it's complicated, you know. I'm only 35, and I grew up in a time in which I was put in an all-traveller class and segregated from settled children. So I mean, I'm not black growing up in Alabama in 1950, you know, but yet I went through that, and that was still going on just a couple of years ago. You know, traveller kids being segregated, and actually it's still going on. Traveller kids getting put into school at certain timetables, and I suppose, you know, a lot of people have said this, and a lot of activists have said it's the last accepted form of discrimination in Ireland, because thankfully, you know, we're a sane country mostly, and if you say outrageous stuff about certain minorities, there's going to be rage against you and you will be pulled for doing something wrong, and I agree with that. But when it comes to travellers, people feel like they can just say anything. And I've seen it from people from every walk of life, people working class, middle class, upper class, artists, person from Ireland, person from another country, all discriminate against travellers because they think it's accepted, it's an accepted culture. So there's a lot to change still, you know.
It's funny because if you see the percentage of indigenous people in Brazil today, it's 0.83% of Brazilian population. It's 1,600,000.
That's similar to ours.
Exactly.
Wow.
Irish
that's
the
so
traveller
similar.
community is just
That's
0.7%.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think the indigenous peoples of all the Americas, I think that's probably the worst tragedy we've ever seen in human history. You know, if you think about, first of all, what the diseases did in terms of wiping out so many indigenous tribes, and then obviously the brutal slaughter and the colonization and the erosion of their culture, and you know the enforced settlement. I think these are some of the worst atrocities we've ever seen. And then also the slavery, the African slave trade. Brazil were particularly bad. They imported 5 million African slaves, 10 times more than North America, which most people don't know.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of tragedy around this, and that was the European superpowers.
Yes, and like there was a time where they would call the route of cemetery because the amount of people that die on the way to like North and South America was just so aggressive.
It was only the toughest of the toughest immune systems really survived, because the word, do you know the word stacked, like stacked on top of something, like you would stack shelves or you would stack food, that comes from the slave ships where they would stack people on top of each other, and the word derived from that. That's the origin of the word, which is just madness because we use the word in such a, you know, a casual way today, you know, stack shelves or whatever, but it actually comes from stacking slaves on top of each other. And then the disease grew. And oftentimes what happened in those slave ships is that they would miscalculate the food and the water. And you'd realise that they wouldn't have enough food or water for the slaves, so they'd have to dump like 200 overboard.
And plus they would put more people than she could support.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's not only about like, okay, we are prepared to bring 1,500 people to
Mm.
exploit there.
Yeah.
If they could like bring 1,800, they
Yeah.
would. We have a message here on
Okay.
our WhatsApp. Hi Fernanda, I would like to congratulate you on your show. Having JC, it's a most, as he's an excellent actor and activist. I had the opportunity to meet him when was studying acting with Hope Brown,
Oh.
and it was a huge impact to us to chat to him. Have you all a nice weekend? Well, nice week. This is Wellington Lewis.
Ah, Louise.
Yes, and I heard a
that's
story. Yeah, can you just tell us? I like that story about the Brazilian guy.
Oh.
You had experience with an actor, a Brazilian
Yeah.
actor.
Well, that was
and-
my first experience with acting. Yeah, I was basically suicidal and looking for a life jacket, and my brother suggested that I take up acting
Mhm.
because I always loved films and I could tell a story. So he said, "Look, I think you'd be a good actor." So I called up an acting class at the Abbey, and I had no money, but I borrowed money off my uncle and brother, and then I got like €5 off my mother to get the bus in and out of town. And I sat around this acting class where everybody did an introduction, and most people had a lot of experience, and I felt very inept, and I wanted to leave the class. But before I could really think about it, the teacher had set up this improvisational scene in which this black Brazilian man was a shopkeeper, and this upper class kind of Dublin fella was a customer, and whatever he said, the Brazilian man would have to go along with it because it's an improvisation. So whatever the customer says, shopkeeper goes along with it. So this upper class guy basically, for me, overreached and started mocking the guy's accent, and I thought this was racist, to be honest. And I identified with this Brazilian man because I've gotten a lot of discrimination in my life. So I became enraged, and instead of quitting the class, which I planned to do, run away at the first chance, because that's what I like to do, run away to be safe. I volunteered because the Dublin guy became the shopkeeper, and they needed now a customer to dictate the scene. So I said, me. So I left the room to prepare. They say, go outside, come up with an idea, and the shopkeeper has to go along with it. So I was so enraged, I kicked the door in and I turned it into a bank robbery, and I slapped the face off the guy, and I grabbed his shoes and his socks, and I was halfway taking off his tracksuit bottoms when the teacher came in and roared
I
at me.
have to laugh because
Yeah.
this story is so amazing.
Yeah. So basically I left then, and the teacher ran after me, and I was like, please don't call the guards, and she was like, John, you're
This is
fucking
just
crazy.
acting.
Yeah, she said, you're crazy, but I like it. Come back.
Me too.
Let's
I
see
have to.
let's see if you can do vulnerability. So I said, okay.
What you
So
were doing?
that's how I got into acting. Yeah.
Yeah. What you were doing before? Like, what was your job, your occupation?
Oh, well,
Before being an actor.
I suppose I did loads of jobs, but boxing was my career. Like, I was a 3-time Irish boxing champion and champion of Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales. It's called the Four Nations. So I'd planned a professional boxing career, but I got loads of injuries, one after another. But also my mental health started to deteriorate in my late teens. All down to my father, and the suicide of my father when I was a kid was now only bubbling to the surface.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand what was happening. I didn't even know what trauma meant. But yet I was getting depressed, and mad stuff was happening, and I was involved in lots of bare knuckle fighting and street fighting and crime. And that took me away from my love of boxing. And then at a certain point, I kind of just went with boxing. What the fuck am I doing with boxing? Like, looking to get punched in the head for a living, it's not the way. And then, luckily, my brother Joe, he pulled me one day when he knew I was basically about to check out by suicide. And that's why I believe in God, because I said, I'm going to kill myself in my head, and the next 10 seconds, my brother knocked on the door and said, are you going to kill yourself? And I was like, what? So it was this kind of spirituality,
Yeah.
that was always been in my life,
Okay.
that I've been saved a few times
Yeah.
by, I think, people, my ancestors, I think, or
Yeah.
my guardian angel.
Yeah.
I believe in that stuff,
Me too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, more than believe, I know. Carl Jung, the great psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, he was asked that question, do you believe in God? And he says, no, I know. And I know because I've had experiences that are profound, like, you
Yes.
know, and that are unexplainable, that science can never explain to me. So,
Yeah.
but I wish people the best luck who are atheists. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I feel like we have a very famous journalist in Brazil. Uh, his name is Ijuca, and he always tell about the damage that box can cause
Oh yeah,
on your brain. And if you see the amount of great boxers that's
yeah.
like, especially Muhammad Ali, I think
My favorite, my great, the
Yeah.
greatest. Yeah,
that guy was
CTE,
just
and
yes.
he got yeah. So he got Parkinson, a version of it that boxers get. So
Yeah.
he got it really bad. But all boxers get CTE. I think I have some CTE anyway. So I was lucky I got out early, you know. But I definitely have some damage because I've sparred tens of thousands of rounds and fought lots of fights and fought bare knuckle. So I've definitely some damage. But luckily I got out with enough of my brain. So
Do you see yourself as a tough guy?
tough in what way?
Oh my God, that's a tough question.
Mhm.
Like a temper, like you lose your temper. What make you lose your temper? Like what
Yeah.
make you go and punch some
Well, that's different than being
racist?
tough. That's different than being tough. Well,
You see, this is a cultural
yeah.
experience,
For like, put it this way.
understanding better.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, look, I had to at a very young age learn how to fight, and in my culture, you have to learn how to fight. You just
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And because my father died when I was young, I and my
You were
brothers.
only 8 years
I was
old.
8, yeah. So we would have been seen by other travelers as, kids who don't have a father, so they won't grow up hard. So then I overcompensated by fighting so much and joining boxing, and I won and I fought rigorously at everything I did. And my father always told me to never back down from a fight. So yeah, look, I can have a physical fight. I think I'm not proud of anything really anymore. I think the word pride I've kind of eliminated from my persona lately. I don't think it's right to be proud of anything really. I think I'm happy with stuff I've done and that, but to be prideful, I don't think that. But look, if someone attacks me, I'm going to be able to defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, I think I have mental toughness, and that came from the fights of life more than physical fights.
Yeah.
The ups and downs and the trauma, the depression, the grief. I lost a lot of people who I love, including my mother, just over a year ago. And
Sorry.
yeah, that's the toughest thing ever happened to me and will ever happen to me. My mother was like my best friend. So, and she was only 52 when she died.
So young, oh my God.
Yeah, she's only 52. So stuff like that, I now know that I'm very tough mentally, taking that, and I've seen the other side of it, and also that's given me a renewed faith in God, which I think is more important than anything. And if you believe in God and you actually believe, and I do, you feel actually very strong.
Yeah.
And I feel very strong now because my faith is in God, and I believe that my mother is still living in another existence.
Yeah.
So and I know I'm going to meet her one day. So I feel very strong,
Yeah.
and I feel mentally tough, and I feel like I can get over anything now because of that. Because I'll never get over my mother, but I've learned to live with it.
How do you connect? Like, are you religious?
Yeah, I pray every morning and every night, and it wasn't always, to be honest. I was never an atheist because of the spiritual experiences I had. Like when I was a kid, I was out in playing in my campsite in the back field in nature, and I could hear my father call me, and he was shouting, "John, John, John, my boy, where are you, son? Where are you?" What I didn't know is that for the past 2 weeks he was in a mental hospital, and we used to visit him in a mental hospital, and we thought we were visiting him in a karate dojo where he was getting his black belt.
Okay.
And him and all the staff and all the other patients would go along with it, and he'd be doing kung fu moves, and we were like, "When are you going to get out? When are you getting your black belt?" So when at that time he was in taking another trip, but what I didn't know was I found out an hour later after I heard him call my voice. I went into my mother and I said, "Mother, Daddy's calling us," and she said, "Son, no." She knew that he was in the mental hospital. She said, "No, he's not around today, son. He's not around. I hadn't seen him in weeks." So while I was eating my dinner, literally a few minutes later, the police came in and told us that he had found his body and he had died by suicide a few days previous. So what was I hearing that day?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I could never be an atheist. But what I went away from religion in general. If you look at sort of what the Catholic Church has done, and you look at what they did it specifically in this country, and I made a film about that called The Black Wealth, which is
Amazing
about
film.
yeah, so it's about intergenerational trauma coming from clerical abuse, and I think what those people did in the church, I genuinely think that they were demonic, and I think the cover-ups from the church were some of the worst atrocities you could commit. You know, to not bring about the truth and what happened, and to repress the truth is so bad. But at the same time, there's a difference between the organization that is the church and then the religion,
Yeah.
and then the scripture, and also between scripture and actual Jesus's words as an individual. So I would say I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and no one can point to me anything that Jesus Christ has ever said bad or hateful about any people or anybody. You know, while you know, other in a time where, you know, there was a lot of bad people and a lot of brutality and a lot of barbarism. You know, Jesus hung with the people who were sick, the people who were poor, the people who were blind, healed them in many different ways, and preached love and forgiveness. So I would consider myself a follower of Christ, and I pray to Jesus every day, every morning and every night, and I thank God for everything in my life, all the good things that have happened, and I thank Him for the bad things that I've learned from.
Yeah.
So, and that helps me in a big way,
Yeah.
particularly since the death of my mother. And if it wasn't for me finding that, I'd be in a way worse place.
Do you regret any situation or idea you had before that? Do you believe in changing? Can people change?
Yeah, people, of course. I mean, if you're not changing, I don't
You're
know.
not living.
You're not living, honestly, yeah. And look, you're changing according to what you're exposed to, the different people you meet. Everything changes. I think one thing that really helps is traveling. You know, traveling around the world. I've been lucky enough that, you know, my job has brought me places between doing documentaries and films and that. And then, you know, I'm a curious mind, so I've got to travel a good bit, and that traveling is a great thing for kind of accessing your humanity, you know, because you see people all across the world, and you go, really, we all have that heart, you know. I remember I stayed 2 or 3 weeks on a Native American reservation in with the Lakota people, Oglala Lakota people, and they killed General Custer, the famous American General Army, who was a tyrant who killed loads of them. They even killed him in the Black Hills, and I was with his descendants, and meeting those people and what they went through, and I could see a lot of, from my own community as well, a lot of similarities. There's moments like that, and I went to Morocco with the Berber people as well, up in Marrakesh in the Atlas Mountains, and you kind of just see that, you know, we all have a soul, you know, and you get to humanize people that are, you know, much different than you, or have a sort of different culture. So I think traveling opens up the mind, I think.
Very true. I have a question for you.
Sure.
It's from a listener.
Yeah.
Francis is his name. Ask John, does he regret sharing platform with fascists during the pandemic? I'm referring to his attendance at the National Party protest outside the door alongside Justin Barrett and death penalty banners. His findings about Tesla may be valid, but considering the fascists call bone secures, mother and baby homes a lie, and the conspiracy against the bureaucracy of the Irish Catholic Church, his motivations need scrutiny. I'm not out to defend Tesla or any state institutions, by the way.
Okay, let's do the Tesla thing first, and I'll answer the other thing. Tesla, for me, I think that history repeats itself. So I'm going to make a film now about Tesla, like he did with the Catholic Church, because I think that Tesla have taken over from the Catholic Church. Children are going missing and being trafficked. These are migrant children, by the way. I know people know this. These are migrant children who've been taken away and turned into sex slaves, I think. So this goes very deep. And this is the state getting away, because don't forget, the state is essentially the Catholic Church too. And they got away with it, but now there's no church, but they're still doing it. And history is repeating itself, so I'm not going to stop. And for me, the worst thing that you can do on planet Earth is harm a child in any way. When you harm a child, for me, you're pure evil. That's when I will dehumanize you, if you harm a child. Now, this is what he said false. He said that I shared a platform with the National Party and Justin Barrett. That is a complete lie. There was 2 protests done that day. The one we did was after that. And I'm so grateful he asked that, because I haven't been able to clear this up. No one can prove this. I actually considered suing numerous newspapers who reported me at that march, which I wasn't. I was at a march with a Conservative party and, yes, a populist party, but they're considered far right, the National. I did not share a stage with them. So that's a lie. So he actually has to do the proper research. But I don't blame him. He's read it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And all I'll say is I'll never regret defending children. And I think in life you have to find meaning and purpose, you know. And for me, the world is becoming a really dark place. And I think if you can continue to repeat history like what the church done, and Tusla are doing it now, and you harm children, you deserve the wrath of God, I believe. So, sorry listener, you're actually wrong. I didn't share the stage with him. And for anybody else out there, just so you know.
It's good to have the opportunity.
Good to clear it up.
So you see, I am free. I have,
Oh no, 100%.
you see, like I can ask some.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so thank
We're
you.
good. We're still alive.
We
don't
have
worry.
disagreement,
Yeah.
yes. And we have another question from Marcos. Welcome, Marcos. He's a regular listener. I'm glad that he's here, and I know he's there. It's good to read him. Okay, the question is, what is your opinion about actors who work with low budgets after have worked in high budget? How about the credibility?
Oh, well, like usually, you know, unfortunately, usually the interesting stuff is more low budget. And what I mean by unfortunately, I don't mean about the money that you're getting paid. It's more about usually if it's lower budget, it doesn't get seen as much, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, we're doing things for the art of it, for the creativity, but also there were bits of show offs as well. We're showing off too, and you want to perform in front of an audience, you know, or you want to make a film so that people see it. So usually the lower budget stuff doesn't get seen as much. It doesn't really make actors are actors. I think a true actor will do things of all different budgets and different kinds, you know.
Are you following the current Oscar nomination and
No.
stuff?
I didn't see any of it, no.
John,
I don't really care about the Oscars, to be honest.
please.
I don't think.
We have a Brazilian woman.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes,
What does she do?
Fernanda is her name.
No way.
Yes. Nobody can mistake my name anymore.
What film is it?
I'm still here.
What is that?
It's about a woman in Brazil that the dictatorship in Brazil.
Really?
It's amazing, and it's gonna be the premiere is on. They will.
It's a Brazilian film, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
100% Brazilian.
Wow. What
And
dictatorship was that? Like something in the past, or?
Jesus, 25 years
Yeah.
of dictatorship in Brazil,
Wow.
and they just kidnapped her husband.
Yeah.
Husband? Yes.
What era was that dictatorship? What,
40 years ago,
40
from
years.
65 to 84.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long, and we still have thousands of people disappeared, like that didn't come back home, and his body was never found.
Wow.
They disappeared with her husband's body,
Yeah.
and now, like 2 weeks ago, finally the state gave her a proper death certificate saying that he was killed by aggression and
Oh.
excess of.
So she got some closure.
Yeah, she's passed away. Like she's
Ah,
not here anymore.
that's
She's
sad.
gone. But it's based on a book.
Okay.
This
Is it a good book?
it's amazing.
Right.
It's very.
What's
very
it called?
Good. I'm still here.
I'm still here as the
Yes,
book as well.
it's
yeah.
all sold out. Like we are starting here on the 14th of
Yeah.
February. It's all sold out. All main.
The
yeah,
cinemas.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We are going to Lighthouse.
Lighthouse, yeah.
Lighthouse
Brilliant.
in Irish.
Well, there's a lot of Brazilians in Dublin, isn't there? So
70,000.
70,000.
Can you believe that?
There's more Brazilians than travelers, Irish travelers.
Thank you. You were saying. Alison is clapping. That's true, Alison. Yes.
Oh, in
I was
fairness, the
about
Brazilians,
to
the Brazilians
say-
are good cracks, so we don't mind Brazilians.
I was about to say, how can I bring this to the conversation? So thank you.
That's brilliant.
And I know, you know what? I want
Yeah.
to have this conversation. I was advised not to by a friend. She just texted
Yeah.
me now. I'm not saying her name.
Yeah.
But when she saw that you were coming,
Yeah.
she just sent me because she knows me, and she said, "Please don't use that word." And I am.
What word?
We are going there.
Okay.
We are. I'm here for 10 years now,
Yeah.
And Irish is home.
Yeah.
I don't care what people say. I'm not leaving.
Sure.
This is home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yes, F word for who wants me to go.
Yeah.
And when I arrived, we had this experience for the first time living in a country. So you take random information, random, things, and you are learning how to deal with society, the dangers you might face, etc. And there is a word, an word. I'm not saying because I don't like using
Of
them.
knack.
Yes.
Yeah. Travelers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knackers. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the word, and there was, and I am advocating and trying to teach people and trying to educate people
Yeah.
to not to use this word,
Mm.
because I feel that's is the worst ever you can tell, because this is okay, it's my home, but it's also your home,
Mm.
and I mean, like the travel in Irish, it's your place, so
Yeah.
I have no right to come here and tell and use bad words for people. And imagine the other way around.
Yeah.
If you go to Brazil,
Brazil, yeah.
and start calling people, of whatever,
Of course. Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
fair.
It's silly stuff. It's funny because the word knacker comes from the profession of a knacker, which was someone who put down horses, killed horses for a living, who were ill, and his yard that he worked in would have smelled really bad.
I have to mention, by the way, I also know him, Roy Willoughby. Roy was my good teacher.
Right.
Yes, and he was the one telling me, please don't do that, don't use that word.
Really?
And yeah, so I learned at the very beginning of my
Yeah.
classes, like, don't say that.
Fair play to Roy.
Yeah, Roy is amazing. I miss him. I hope he's well.
Yeah.
And so yes, sorry.
So it would have been a very unhygienic job. So that became a slur that was put onto travellers. But it actually comes from the old Irish word or saying, "Anachar," which means dealer of horse flesh. But again, as I said, the profession got a very bad reputation for being unhygienic, and in around the late 50s, when they were looking for a derogatory slur to use against travellers, knacker became the slur. But it also gets used against groups, working class groups of people as well.
Yes, and it is aggressive and it's wrong.
It is, yeah.
And now I feel like, because of course we don't use that word, we use another word, but among us,
Yeah.
like the Brazilian community, because we are speaking in Brazilian,
Mm.
and I guess that Irish people know that we are using this word.
Yeah.
What would, like, I need help, educating people. I really do, because I think it's so bad,
Yeah.
and this make us bad people, and we
Yeah.
are not bad people. We are okay, like,
Yeah. I don't think anybody's truly bad, Well, some are, but they might be psychopaths.
of course.
We can all make mistakes, and it's all about learning,
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, if you look at the comparison and you go, I think a good thing for me to say to someone who might be Brazilian and they might be saying bad words towards travellers, a good question might be, would you say that about indigenous people in Brazil?
Yeah.
Or would you say it about black people in Brazil?
That's my point.
And it's the exact same thing. There isn't any difference. That is the logic. So if they're not willing to do it about their own people back home, they shouldn't do it here, and neither should Irish people here.
Yeah.
About anybody. If people are going out of the way as well to offend any group, I do wonder. I used to have a lot of anger about that stuff, but I don't actually anymore, Fernanda.
Yeah.
I don't. I actually, I pity people who spew hatred, because they can't be happy. If you're actually hating people, if you truly are hating people, you can't be happy.
Yeah.
Something else is going on within you.
Yeah.
And some things are happening in your life, and you're lacking a sense of humanity, and you're lacking your spirituality, and you're angry. So it doesn't. That stuff really, I'll be honest, nowadays bounces off me no problem. Years ago, if a fella come up to me and called me a knacker or a pikey, I just knock him out and then walk away. Now I just ask him, are you all right?
That's a good question. And plus, I feel I would like to you know, bring this to the Irish community attention as well, because sometimes it's not that we meant to.
Yeah.
It's something that we learned from, you know, and we don't really know the meaning. We just know the words because it's a different language.
Yeah.
That's something as well. So when I learned the first time, like, because it's the stereotype of people dressed in such and such a way, and other Brazilian speakers would say, "Oh, that people are whatever," you know, and I would reply, because for me it's just I don't have, and how can we help also the Irish community not to be so angry when they heard this, because I think it's so hard for, you know, maybe some people can mean to say, okay, they are whatever in a bad sense, but sometimes I have to mention that it's just a lack of education. So how can we help these people not to go angry?
I think calling out discrimination
Mm-hmm.
is always a good thing. But how you call it out is probably the main thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you don't meet anger with anger. That does not work.
Yeah.
You know, I think you meet anger with love.
Yeah.
And I've actually done that with people who've discriminated against me, and it's disarmed them because they weren't expecting that. They were expecting me to be angry back or to be hateful. And I think that's the trick. But I also think that you need to start early, you know, in the home with kids. You know, kids are not born with a hate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they learn hate.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think that's very important. You know, that it's, you know, and to understand actually that traveler culture isn't, you know, a mad culture of something different, or, you know, it's not radically different than Irish culture. It's just that we hold on to Irish culture, and a lot of it that, you know, we're the most of maybe settled people don't hold on to like we hold on to. So it's an Irish culture. They're afraid of, you know, are afraid of or fearing or discriminating against their own culture, really. That's what it is. That's what's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so we have another question here for you.
Cool.
Yeah, I hope people just stop thinking, and sometimes, like, both sides, like, I feel sorry because I feel sorry. Okay, so it's another question by Marcus. Alison, do you have any question, by the way? You're so quiet there.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Do you want me to answer that now, or
Yes,
yeah?
go ahead,
Yeah.
Jack.
So when wolves howl, I suppose we can call it the Tusla film. Um, it's myself and Graham Early. Graham Early played the lead in The Black Welf, the film I directed, and myself and Graham have worked together for years, and we're like really close. We've worked together great, and it's directed by Craig Moore. It's his first feature-length film, and we did a promotional shoot the weekend where we did 2 days to get a sample and a sort of mini teaser trailer of the movie so that we can finance it and hopefully shoot it in the summer. And it's about two fathers whose daughters go missing, and the system is involved, and together they team up and try to hunt down um, the people who have taken their daughters. So it's kind of, there's a little bit of like Liam Neeson taken in it because it's a bit of an action thriller,
Mm-hmm.
which I want to start doing that kind of fun stuff now too. But then it also has the kind of depth of a Gone Baby Gone, Mystic River kind of stuff as well, and it's a little bit of Lethal Weapon buddy cop stuff as well, you know. So it's designed to be, you know, to do a film about something really important, but to add enough honey into the mix that people get to watch it so that the message spreads to more people. And that's the trick now, is getting the right balance between art and entertainment, because if you go too artsy, no one sees it and then the message is lost.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get enough honey with the lemon,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Are you? What do you feel like? What you think? Are you going to be more director than actor, or both things can go?
Yeah, I'm going to do them all. I'm going to do them all. With this, when Wolves Howl, I'm producing and acting, and I've a few things lined up director-wise. Like I've a film in the Dublin International Film Festival that's premiering called Where the Road Meets the Sky,
Mm-hmm.
which is about my grandmother and her stories that she tells and the mythical legend and folklore of Ireland and the travellers. And also it's about overcoming grief and finding meaning in death, and my mother and my family and my whole community. So that's an interesting thing, and that's the second documentary feature I've directed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna direct a traveller drama, which I'm submitting for funding soon with Screen Ireland. It's called The Irish Flame, and it's kind of a biographical piece.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting because I'll be the first traveller to make a film about travellers.
Okay, very good. So of course, we cannot tell, like, okay, my plan is, life changes all the time, but you feel that your work will be always focused on this, like your background, your history, your heritage.
Yeah, well, I think my directing and writing work is definitely going to be about the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
whoever the underdog might be. You know.
Talking about underdogs, the questions. Okay, what's the question? Yeah, Marcos again. I used to live in London, and there was a series called The Bill. What's your opinion about acting in series? Is it good or a villain? I think, in an acting career.
Well, The Bill was kind of like a soap opera rather than a series, I think,
Mm.
wasn't it? I remember The Bill. I remember the soundtrack to it.
Mm.
Yeah, TV and film are definitely different. Um, I suppose in TV there's a lot more structure to it, and the director has less of a say in the style of the show. It's more the writer.
Uh-huh.
So they are different.
What do you like doing most?
I like them. I like them all, really. I suppose it depends. It's nice when you get a nice paycheck. Sometimes you get that from TV more
Yeah.
than film these days.
Yeah.
You know, like I did the Guy Ritchie show, which was called The Gentleman on Netflix, and I only played a small part, but he paid me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of money for me and a consultancy fee. So, and I really played a small part. So, that was really nice getting that money.
Yeah, because once you have some, like you were.
Money is freedom, and then I can
Of
do
course,
something else that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
ideally, you get a big gig like that, and then I can do something artsy. Then
Mhm.
that's the ideal career.
Yeah, yeah. What changes for you when you won the award of Best Actor?
I don't know what really changed. I think I kind of I had an opportunity to kind of go to the next level internationally, and I sabotaged it and didn't do it. And I think for many reasons, I think I was offered a role in an American film, which was a war film, a big budget, like 70 million budget war film, and I turned it down because I didn't like what it was about. It was basically a justification of America's war in Iraq,
Okay.
and I'm against that war, and a million Iraqis died because of that. So I said no, and my agent said, let's take a break. And I said, what's this, Ross and Rachel and Friends taking a break? Fuck off. So I sabotaged.
Second time, Peter. Sorry, Alison.
Sorry, Peter, but I sabotaged the Hollywood career there. So I don't know what changed, except that I think that speech hit about 8 million people have seen that speech. So
Yeah.
and it gave people some hope about creativity and what it does for your mental health. So more than anything, besides the career, that message of creativity and the power of art,
Yeah.
that got out there, and people, no matter what, like I think I did that speech now 2018,
Yeah.
7 years ago, and people still talk about that and say that hit home. So
Yeah.
more than a career, I think that actually is nice, and it's there forever, for people to see online. So
Yeah. The boss is telling me that we only have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yes. Time flies, Alison.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Jesus, yes. And you are very vocal. You are someone that talk whatever comes. Like you're open mind. You are like, I am very happy and glad you are here, because it's, I felt like, oh my God, I was shaking. Of course, it's always the first time, as Alison knows. Have you ever had like a feeling that you would you would be something else than an actor? Meaning, could you be a politician?
Uh, Maybe one day, maybe. You never know.
We never know.
You never know. Um, there's a chance. There's a chance of that. Maybe the next elections we might see, or the EU elections or something. Maybe.
I
But
can vote for you EU election.
yeah, can you? There you go. The problem is that creativity in art is way much more fun.
Yeah.
And messaging through art is more powerful because art changes culture, not politics.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks
It
for
was
having me.
such a pleasure. And we will be back
Thanks,
on
Alison, as well.
Friday at 1 p.m. You can return to Dublin South FM to listen back to John Connors. This is amazing. We have a music to finish. John, how people can find you? What's your platform? Where are you? Please.
John Connors on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all that. John Connors. Film Connors, John Connors.
Yes. Let's have John here at the radio making his own show, Alison. Alison, thank you again for being there. The last song is a song by Baiana System. The song you have today is from Baiana System. They were here last year, and this song is called Alaji. Thank you so much. Please come back next week. Take care. Bye bye. Done.
You happy?
This was easy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice and relaxed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me talk about